This is the Extra Point Podcast from Arizona's Family.
All right, so if you've watched the television show, if you listen to the podcast, you know that there are a certain handful of people that if they are available, they have an open invitation to join the Extra Point at any time. A man who needs no introduction to me or Longhorn fans or really anybody who watched college football and remembers him ripping off a touchdown run against Texas A&M in a whiskey bottle going flying past my head and him becoming the all-time leading rusher in college football. And he joins us, runs in here on the Extra Point Podcast. The one, the only, Ricky Williams joins us here on Arizona's Family. Ricky, how are you today?
Great. It's been 25 years. I'm celebrating my 25th year winning the Heisman Trophy. So it's one of those big years for me.
Okay, we're officially old. I'm the whiskey bottle, it went flying past my head. My brother and I, we woke up in Houston and drove to Austin that day. I was a student at UT at the time, and I just remember thinking, yeah, glad I didn't get hit by it, but that would have made for an even more amazing memory. As it's been 25 years. You still look like you could line up and play right now. Do you still, this time of year have the desire at all for one more play to put on the helmet and shoulder pads and go try to get a first down?
I don't desire, but I 20-something years of my life, early September, we're getting ready for the first game, whether that was Pop Warner, high school, college, or the NFL. And so I feel the buzz, but after watching the preseason and some of the hits those guys are taking, I don't miss that part, but I do miss the excitement and the hopefulness of a brand new season.
Certainly, I think you're breaking up a little bit on us here, but we'll just try to keep going here and continue the conversation. At the time when you were at the University of Texas, I remember seeing you and Earl Campbell and seeing kind of what his body went through. How is your body at this point, 25 years out of after the Heisman win, and as you kind of transition into this point in your life?
Yeah, luckily I had an earlier transition in 2004 when I walked away from the NFL halfway through my career. And I found alternative healing. I found yoga. I found meditation. And so I was able to start taking care of my body for the second half of my career. And I still have to do those things. I still have to stay on top of my well-being. But if I remember to do that, then I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good considering all the years of playing football and all the hits I took.
Well, what's that process look like from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, making sure your body's right? And how much do you think your story and your journey kind of ushered in this? I mean, we're seeing, I don't know if you watched that show on Netflix, Kirk Cousins doing all the things he does to take care of his body, but how much do you think you kind of, I guess, were led the way when it comes to taking care of your body like that?
I think I led the way in the sense of the timing of when I was a professional football player was really when there's a huge wellness boom, and I was open-minded and experimental enough that I was willing to try anything. And so a lot of the weird and wacky things, at least at the time that I was into, was highly documented. There's pieces on the news, magazine articles. And so I think I helped normalize athletes finding alternative ways to take care of themselves. But, there were a lot of other guys, Troy Polamalu, Tom Brady is known, James Harrison. So a lot of guys in my time period where we had access to these different modalities, and we definitely had the need because our bodies were so beat up that I think we opened the door to help more athletes find these alternative means of taking care of their body.
Do you have any guys reaching out to you? Are you kind of a mentor to anybody at this point?
A couple of guys will reach out, but to me, it takes someone getting to the point of realizing this is hard. I need to find. Usually, guys, when they start to panic, that's when they reach out, and usually the panic moment happens, half to 2/3 through their career, and they realize I'm not going to be able to do this forever, and my body's starting to fall apart. I need to do something. That's when a lot of guys will reach out, and first thing I tell them is, "Don't worry, this is normal." And the fact that you're waking up to this while you still have your body, it's a positive thing. And then I, help them just learn to tune into their body and prioritize taking care of their bodies. I think that was the big thing I learned is being a football player. It took me halfway through my career to realize if I'm going to brutalize my body, I need to spend as much time and energy healing and taking care of it.
Does it, as you look back now, like did you put your kids in football? Do you feel like football is it was worth all the time and effort?
So I was hungrier than my kids, and football is tough. And so my two oldest sons, I didn't put them in football, but they were trying to be like dad, and gravitate towards it, and they realize it's not for them. Um, my 13-year-old, I tried to talk him out of it, and I gave him the speech because he was complaining, and I said, listen, I said, if you're going to play football, you're complaining about the other guys, you shouldn't be playing football. If you're going to play football, you need the other players complaining about you know? And it must have worked because he doesn't complain anymore, and he's really starting to make plays out on the field. So I say, there's so much you can learn from football, and if you're tough enough to take the beating and they have me to help them learn to take care of themselves, I say it's worth it. If you can and you're going to complain about it, like don't do it. It's not worth it.
So how do you counsel a young athlete as far as taking care of yourself and all the different ways that you've learned? What works for a young athlete and what works as you get older?
The biggest thing is listen to your body. I think so much for me when I was young and something hurt, I just would take some Advil or I'd pop a pill and keep it moving. Instead, I tell a player, if you feel something's not right, spend a little extra time before practice stretching it and taking care of it. It really is simple. Listen to your body. Notice the things you eat that make you feel worse. Notice the things you eat that make you feel better. Notice how much sleep you need to feel at your best. It's just paying attention to when you feel you're at your best and try to figure out how you got there and just keep doing that. We're all given that ability to be aware of our own bodies. It's just sometimes we don't have anyone teaching us how to do that.
And cannabis use has obviously been a big part of your journey. When does that, in your opinion, become healthy for an athlete to experiment with? There's a fine line between kids and legalities, and you're kind of out here as a guy who's been kind of on the front lines of this. So, what's your message to athletes about cannabis?
The message, if I'm being honest, I have to start with teenagers, because whether it's legal or we think they should be doing it or not, they're doing it. And so to me, I'm not against educating them and how to do it. My son, it was a teenager, came to me and, I couldn't be a hypocrite and say, don't do it. I said, if you're going to do it, I need to see you utilizing it to improve the quality of your life. So, if I see you sitting on the couch, after smoking, and I ask if you've done your homework and you say no, that's not going to work, right? If you're sitting on the couch and I ask if you've done your homework and you're actually sitting on the couch doing your homework, right? I'm not going to say anything. And so it's really a continuation of what I just said. So much about cannabis and the stigma, it's unfortunate because the most important thing is someone's intention, right? If someone has the intention of they're going to consume cannabis and do their homework, or they're going to consume cannabis and do some stretching, or they're going to consume cannabis and visualize themselves performing, then it becomes a tool. And if it doesn't work for that, then you don't use it for that. So for me, it's just about intention. Right? If you like the way it makes you feel, you can use that to a positive thing. Now, do it, feel good, and then do something that's going to make your life better. Watch film, study. Right? That way people are consciously using it to improve their life, and so they're not going to stumble on the darker side.
And for you, it's also been well documented, your journey at the University of Texas. I think there were 6 straight 200-yard games, and you've talked about how you just weren't feeling it. And I remember times I was actually one of those college kids, members of the media, and the helmet wouldn't come off during some of the interviews. And you were in. Was it safe to say you were in kind of a dark place at that point?
I was a dark place in the sense of I thought that being a professional football player would be more fun than it actually was. I thought by the time I, won the Heisman Trophy and shown I was a really good football player, that people would cut me some slack. But it was the opposite. And so I just was wrestling with my delusions about fame and popularity and dealing with it. But to me, that's a healthy part of being in your early to mid 20s, is you're trying to wake up to all the delusions you had about what it means to be an adult and dealing with the reality of what it actually means to be an adult. And as soon as I did that, I made a strong response and really had a wonderful second half of my career.
What was the highlight to you? What was the favorite, as you look through the kaleidoscope of the NFL career and the football life and everything like that? If you go back to one moment, what would that be?
I go back to 2 moments. The first moment was, and it was a short a very short-lived moment. It was the end of the 2002 football season, and it was the last game of the year, and I was, I think, first or second in rushing in the NFL, and we were up in New England playing the Patriots, and so it was a big challenge because they always have a good defense. And I ended up rushing for 182 yards, and there was this brief moment in the fourth quarter where we had the game in hand, and I was going to lead the NFL in rushing, and we were going to the playoffs. It was brief because I think Jay threw an interception, and Tom Brady worked his magic, and they came back and tied the game, and then we lost in overtime.
Oh, gosh, I remember that.
So I still led the league in rushing, but we didn't make the playoffs, and it was kind of like I had this bitter taste in my mouth about we had a really good team. It's just a couple of little moments like that. We had a shot.
Oh, I remember that. That was like when Primetime did the, minute by minute what happened. And, it was, yes, as a football fan, just watching that all unravel, my condolences on that one. What running backs do you like now? Do you watch more college, pro? Who are some of the guys that you watch and can really appreciate?
I ended up watching more NFL football. And for me, it's the running back, but I think more importantly, for a running back to be able to do his thing, he's got to be in a system that appreciates his skill set and gives him the opportunity to do it. And I think last year, Josh Jacobs and the Raiders, the way that they utilized him was really fun to watch. Derrick Henry, he's really the core of their offense. So the way they utilize him, especially when he gets going, is fun to watch. So I really like running schemes, but so many teams now are passing schemes that use the running game to keep the other team off balance. But yeah, those are my favorite backs to watch right now.
What'd you make of what Primetime did at Colorado this weekend? Did you check any of that out? Did you see what Deion Sanders pulled off?
Yeah. I mean, I've always known this. Like if you can get the players to buy in and believe in what you're doing, you're going to get the most out of them. And I know Deion personally. He's just a really good guy who understands success, how to be good, and he really cares about the player. So I'm not surprised at all by his success, and I expect it to continue. And hopefully it opens the door for a lot of other players of his caliber step into coaching and have more of an impact on these younger kids.
Is there a Coach Williams in the future?
If anyone was crazy enough to give me a coaching job, it'd be hard for me to say no.
Interesting. What would it be? Would it be offensive coordinator? Would it be head coach? What's or running back coach? What do you really nerd out about while you're watching football?
I'm a head coach. I think I nerd out about football. I nerd out about football in general. But I really nerd out about inspiring young people to be the best they can be. And so I wouldn't want to be bogged down with X's and O's. I'd want to really focus on each of the individual young men playing for me and how to get the best out of them.
That's what it's all about right there for sure. And as you look at the current state of college football, I remember when I've still been trying to get one of my hands on one of these shirts, the Heisman Trophy with the dreads. Do you have any of those illegal shirts they were selling at the University of Texas 25 years ago?
Yeah, my kids have a couple. Yeah, they do.
You should. Do they market those? Is that part of the Heisman House? Can we pick one of those up on the site?
Honestly, it might be time to bring those back. It's kind of tricky because we don't want to get sued by the Heisman Trophy, but maybe I'll talk to them and we could do a special 25-year throwback edition.
That definitely. Because I think those would go crazy. They were the hottest item at UT, and they weren't. They could have gotten sued by the Heisman Trophy. The guys was literally.
They did.
Did it? Okay. So how many of them are there that are left? Do you know?
My guess, there's probably at least 1,000 out there floating around. At least.
This wasn't like a Bosworth thing, right? Where you kind of you told them what you were looking for? No,
people it just caught fire. I was a kid. I was so focused on football. But I guess it made sense. You take a Heisman Trophy silhouette and put dreads on it. I think I was the first Heisman Trophy winner with dreads.
Yeah, it was
funny. The pictures of the 70s, like Billy Sims, his afro is like this big. When we do the Heisman House commercials and I see that image, I ask him, was that real? Because it barely fits in the frame.
That could be for your next look. the Billy Sims 1970s. As far as college football goes, though, and you see kind of the conference realignment and just everything kind of getting upset, the apple cart has been upset. I don't know, healthy, unhealthy? How do you feel about the current state of college football as a whole?
It's a natural evolution, but we can't call it an amateur sport anymore. I think it's a professional sport. We have free agency, we're paying players now, and I think the way that the conferences are switching up, but it's an evolution. And so I think it'll memorialize the good old days, but it's where we are.
Oh, certainly. It is. It's certainly the state of college football, and it ain't changing. You got a couple things that are coming up here in Arizona. You have an appearance on Saturday in Tolleson, Arizona, at Nature's Medicine. So tell everybody out there kind of what you have on tap and how, if they want to hear your message some more, they can be a part of it.
Well, let's hear my message. It's also just come hang out and spend some time with me. So whenever I'm in town, I'll stop by and visit a couple of dispensaries where people can find my brand, Heisman. And usually I sign autographs and just chit chat. Usually there's 20 to 40 people show up. So it gives me enough time to really sit and get to know people a little bit. And then on Sunday at the High Lounge, we're hosting Heisman House, which is great. It's people get to come and hang out with me, smoke a little bit, and watch Sunday Ticket. And to me, that's my favorite thing to do because I geek out, like I said, about football and just chill and hang with fans. I also hear a lot of fans say, when people are asked, who is your dream list of people you'd like to smoke with? A lot of people have Ricky Williams on that list. And I love giving people the opportunity to do that while sharing my football knowledge with them.
And that's every Sunday throughout the season?
Well, I'll be here to kick off the first, and I'll be back at least once a month. But yeah, it's a great spot. I mean, to me, it's the first time I walked in, it was like, wow. And with my history of getting in so much trouble for sports and cannabis, now to have a place where I can celebrate both at the same time and enjoy with my people, there's nothing like it.
How would you describe Ricky Williams' people? What the I don't know if you call them the Rickies, the Heismans. Who are Ricky Williams' people?
Curious people. People that see something and they don't think, what the hell is he thinking? They think, I wonder what he's thinking. It's curiosity, because if someone's curious, I always know it's going to be an interesting conversation.
All right. Final question for you. What are you most curious about here in the NFL season? Is this just, do we crown the Chiefs again, or what storylines are you watching?
Well, in the beginning of the season, you have to crown the Chiefs. You have to. All right. But so the curiosity is who is going to surprise us. Like last year, we had the Eagles surprise everyone. So I got two big curiosities. One, can the Eagles do it again? Because there's a flash in the pan, but the true building of a dynasty, the young quarterback, there's the potential. And then for me, every year, I'm always curious about which rookies are really going to stand out. So those are the two questions I'm entering this season here.
Well, that's certainly what we're watching here. I just did a fantasy draft, and I might as well. Could you do a comeback so I can draft you? Because my team stinks. So that's where I'm at. But hey, this has been a great conversation. Look forward to seeing you out here. And anytime you're in town, let us know. And we have this nightly television show. Love to see you if you ever want to come in studio. The invitation is open.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
The Extra Point Podcast is a production of 3TV, CBS 5, and azfamily.com in Phoenix, Arizona.